Hello everyone, welcome to Gosport Railworks. My name is James and today we're doing another beginner tutorial, this one being various methods of making terrain. There is many more methods of making terrain than the examples which I'll be giving you, but these are the four which I picked for this particular video. The methods which I'm using is my usual paper mache, which I'm using newspaper as an example for this bit at the moment. We also got another thing which I have used before, which is a plaster wrap, which is basically the same stuff which you wrap casts with and stuff. So I'll leave that there in a moment. The other thing which I have also used is, I'll say polyfiller, but general purpose filler. So it's quite nice as it's solid, it's easily workable and sandable. You can mould it into whatever you want, and it makes good rock terrain as well. The other thing which I'm going to be using, which I haven't used before, is expanding foam, which is this big thing over here. And since it's something which I haven't used before, we get to, well, here you get to see me working out how to use this. It shouldn't be too difficult. I have used it in a non-modelling form before, so yeah, it shouldn't be that difficult. But I'll be putting it in, as you can see, I've got a tester board here. It's just basically a very thin base board, just built for well, this tutorial really. And I've split it up into four with the some scrap bits of track and a point which I've knackered. And yeah, it's just basically just so you just so I can give you a few examples of what to do. So yeah, we've got 4 quadrants. This big one I'm going to use for the foam because I said I'd rather have a lot of space for it, and just to make sure it's not going to go everywhere, I've got some scrap cardboard just to clean up anything at the bottom. So we've got foam over here, got polyfiller here, and we'll have these two for the paper mache and also can't remember what it's called, plaster. But plaster and paper mache both need frames underneath them. Generally, paper mache, you use cardboard or more paper mache. Plaster, you can use stuff like wire netting and stuff like that, chicken wire, but I haven't got any, so I'll be using more cardboard. So I'm going to get to work gluing all that down, and yeah, when I'm ready to show you, well, how to do one of these, and then move on to the next one. So see you in a sec. Right, here we are. We finished doing all the well, the framework for the paper mache bit and also the plaster area. For the paper mache bit, I have filled it, basically made it a bit more hilly and filled in the empty bits with just scrap paper. You can use more cardboard, but I just opted to go with scrap paper because I've got tons of it. I have already got my glue ready for the paper mache. You should really know how to make paper mache. It's really easy. It's basically water, glue, roughly 50-50, maybe a bit more glue. Mix it all together and make sure it's nice. I've got a also I have glued these down using UHU glue. You can use other glue, but I use that because it's a bit more sturdy, and I'm quite happy with using it. But yeah, with the paper mache glue, it's basically PVA, water, 50-50, maybe a bit more glue, and then mix it till it's a nice consistent consistency anyway. And with the newspaper or whatever paper you're using, newspaper is probably better. Personally I like cutting it up into little squares and then using it like that. And then you just dunk it in, strain off some of the glue, and then just start plopping it down really. I like getting a few bits. There we go. I'm only going to be doing the paper mache side. So I'm doing this a bit quickly than I should do because I quite sort of heard somebody yelling for me, but and I don't really want to take too long. because I want to say all the other bits, but I have to wait for this lot to dry first. But it's basically just do what you would normally do for paper mache, really. Just make sure you get enough. Basically, quite a few coats of glue and paper. If you've got edges like here and here, make sure you just curve it round, as you should do, just to make sure that it's got a nice grip on the surface. So I'm just gonna might do a little bit onto the other side, but doesn't really matter. I have used plaster as a coating after doing paper mache, just to give it that bit more rigidity. So yeah, it's pretty much going to be like that, really. Now I'm going to stop recording and just give it a few more layers. So it's basically just dip more in, put more on, and just do that till you're happy that it's a nice solid mass, and then wait for it to dry. Unfortunately, it's water and glue, and it will just take a while to dry. So yeah, I'll see you in a bit once it's all dry. So I'm also going to clean my hands before touching the camera again. So yeah, see you in a bit. Right, and here we are with the on the next day. You can see the paper mache is more or less dry. It's probably maybe a bit damp on the inside, but for the most part it's dry. Next we're going to have a go at using the plaster wrap, or I think there is another name for it, but I can't remember it, so I'm just calling it plaster wrap. And yeah, I really don't like working with this stuff, as it's quite messy. In my opinion, more messy than using, well, somewhat more messy than using this. At least with this you can just, no, with the paper mache you can just wash it all off quite easily, but with this you get plaster bits everywhere. But you pretty much use it the same as paper mache. You do need to cut it up. As you can see, you can just use normal scissors, but you can also see, well, maybe able to see, you get plaster bits everywhere. And all you need to do is dunk it in some water. Some brands may have a preferred side, because there may be a smooth side and a bumpy side, and I can't remember which one you need to go upwards, but this is a cheaper brand, maybe the other way around. And you basically just pop it on like this, and then smooth out all the bits. Now this, you do have to make sure that you do need to smooth out everything, so it does end up being nice and smooth, instead of just being just a lumpy fabricy material. And you just again need to layer it all up, and eventually you'll have something which is fairly solid. The advantage over paper mache compared to, this has over paper mache, is that when it sets, it'll be much more solid. And you do need a fair amount of water. Only thing is, I don't know if it's got a shelf life or not. I don't know if this is working. Oh well, I'll find out eventually. But yeah, I've got plenty of the stuff here, so I'll have a go at doing more of this. So yeah, I'm gonna carry on with this, and like I said, it just acts pretty much like paper mache, but it's just gets everywhere, and I don't like it. That's why I stopped using it. So I'm going to clean my hands so I can just turn off the camera. So yeah, I'll bring you back in a bit once I've done all of this and we're ready to get to work on the next bit. So see you in a sec. I'll just do a quick close-up of this before it's dried, and it does seem to be doing some work, I did have to quickly cover up this part on the paper mache side because I accidentally got it wet, so I figured I might as well just use more plaster to cover it up. But yeah, you have to really rub it in just to get all the plaster into the little, well, in between the fabric-y stuff. And I have used all my remaining stuff because I really don't like it. As you can see, it gets really messy everywhere, and it's annoying to clean up. And there is one main disadvantage compared to plaster to paper mache, in that it costs something. Paper mache, it's practically free. You can buy a newspaper for less than £1, and you have tons of it then. Or if you happen to shop at a particular shop, you do get free newsletters, and then you get lots of free newspaper. And there's yeah, tons of these. Not running out of newspaper for a while. And yeah, cardboard's fairly cheap, so you might as well just use that in my opinion. But yeah, there is some cases to use this, basically if you need rigidity or something like that, but they both act very similar. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to wait for all this to set and dry, and then I'll get to work over here. So bring you back in a bit. Right, here we are with the plaster all dried, and just to quickly show you, this is what happens if you don't quite get it all smoothed out. You get all this pitted and potted surface. It's alright, but it may just be because I used a cheaper brand of plaster wrap. But to be honest, when you cover it in grass and all that lot, you probably won't be able to see it all that well. But anyway, on to the next type of terrain, and that is using stuff like filler and stuff like that. And I am going to try to use my older lot of filler first, just so I can get rid of it if it wants to work. Now this, no, that looks like it's just powdered now. No, that's probably not going to work. Let's get to the other one. But oh well, figured I'd have a go. That looks a bit better. If it wants to come out. Yes, it doesn't. Right. This stuff, once it dries, it ends up being, well, you can sand it. So I'm just gonna get a dollop, and yeah, I'm probably gonna throw that other lot away. But once you get it down, you can actually form it into landscape. So probably I've used probably should have used some sort of former or something like that, but never mind. But yeah, you can. There is stuff which is like this, which is probably a bit better to use, which is stuff like air dried clay. You can form it into however you want, and yeah, and that will look like. And you can also sand that as well, and it can end up making very nice terrain as well. But the main attractive thing with this is that you can form it and make landscape types which you can't with the other. I might try and mix in some of the other stuff really. Try and use some of this and see if I can dry out the other one. I'm mainly just trying to use up this one. So I'm going to bring you back after I've done work with this, and so I don't make too much of a mess really, because I can't really talk and do this at the same time. So I'll bring you back once I've got it all done and it's ready to dry. So bring you back in a bit. Right, here we are with the filler all splodged in there. I probably don't actually recommend using this unless you for specific uses. Them being if you need to smooth out something on something already built, instead of using it completely as a terrain. Instead, use air-dried clay. It's much more easier to use. But this does say that you can use this stuff for scenery, but try to reserve it for spaces where you can't use anything else really. You can also use it to make some rather nice rock effect once it's dried. You can make it, scratch it into stuff. Basically, as you can see on the outside here, if you smush it all over a surface, you can basically give it some sort of texture. Stuff like that, and if you paint it right, it will look like rock. So yeah, I have tried to make a bit of a lip here so it can form a ledge, and then I'll show you it once I've smoothed it out. It does take a little while to dry, so I'm going to come back to this a couple of days later, because the more of this you use, the more of it takes to dry. So yeah, I'm going to leave this alone, and then I'll bring you back once we're ready to look at the next bit. So yeah, just as I said earlier, on second thoughts, don't use filler. Use filler and air-dried clay, as that should actually probably work a lot better. Air-dried clay for the main bit, and if it starts cracking in bits and places, use filler. Anyway, I'll bring you back after it's all done. So see you in a bit. Right, here we are with, well, actually it's about a week later, and yeah, as you can see, it has dried now. It does take a little while if you use a pure filler mixture, which is why I suggested use some air-dried clay, because it means you can use the best of both worlds, as it'll basically use the clay for the main bit and then use the filler to fill in the gaps. So it's quite solid, and you can smooth it out nicely. You should probably use filler here, there and everywhere to fill in any of these gaps if you want to, but I'm not going to bother because it just takes a bit too long to do. Anyway, the last one which I want to look over, which is the one I have been a bit unsure of, is the expandable foam. And let's just see. Just going to be very careful using this. I have seen some good things used on this, but probably going to be right. Probably do. Right, I'm probably just going to sub this upstairs and let it dry, or set, whatever it is, and yeah, we'll come back to it and carve it into hopefully something useful. Let's see if just make it a bit more hill shaped. There you go. That's probably way more than I need. Anyway, yeah, the advantage of this is that you can get tons of it rather cheaply in this. Downside is if you're not too sure about it, it's quite I wouldn't say dangerous. Well, it is somewhat dangerous, as you're meant to be wearing gloves, so don't try this at home, despite the fact I am trying this at home. And I have used it before, but like I said, I've used it to fix roofs, so yes. Anyway, I'm going to let that set, and then we'll come back to it and see what we can do with it. And that's still coming out, so yeah, see you in a bit. Now then, here we are with all the foam cut down. As you can see, it does make quite a mess. This is actually the second lot of foam which I've sorted out. But yeah, it's not too bad of material. I will mention that it is quite spongy on the inside. So if you want a smooth finish, I would not actually recommend just using this on its own. However, using it as a filler material, as it is actually what it's meant to be for, it's not too bad. As you probably have noticed, I have plastered on, well, spread on some actual all-purpose filler, just to fill in all the little gaps and holes. It's still drying at the moment because I've only just done it. It doesn't look too bad, and once I've smoothed it out and probably done another coat just to get all the other little holes, it would work quite well. I may actually use this for when I got a larger layout where making basically tons of paper mache is probably a bit out of the question. It probably could be used with paper mache, the final coat of paper mache, but on its own it's probably not all that suitable. And just notice that bit which is annoying me. But yeah, I would recommend using it for basically to support stuff like plaster wrap, normal filler, and also paper mache. So it is a useful material, and if you could probably make it smoother, maybe a heated cutter or something like that, just to seal all the holes, it may also work on its own quite well. But yeah, I know this has been a bit of a weird video, and I'm still somewhat unsure if I should actually publish it, but I probably will. But yeah, I hope you have found it useful. If not, oh well, just don't watch it like I would normally. And I do hope to do more of these videos, but I'm still unsure about doing a series. But also, just mention this stuff is extremely easy to cut. I used a cutting blade. You can probably use a kitchen knife. No, just a normal blunt one. But yeah, anyway, if you can like this series, I'll still be doing them. Hopefully going on to something more interesting than me just plastering this board with many types of things for an hour. Next video I'll be doing ballasting, and just saying not a correct way, but the way I've been doing it, how to do ballasting. I'll be using this board and also a little smaller board just to show you how to practice what I've been practicing. I still need to clean up. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If not, feel free to let me know, and well, I may or may not continue the series, but it's all up to you lot. But anyway, like I said, hope to see you all again next time. Feel free to comment, like and subscribe if you want to. Also feel free to share if you really want to as well. And yeah, I'll see you again next time. Bye bye now.